Welcome to Peaking to Success, the podcast that delves deep into our guest success stories, the highs, the lows, the lessons learned, and if there's any exciting future plans lined up. Talking about future plans, Peaking into Success is proudly supported by Peak Wills and Estate Planning. We're here to support you with any future planning. Long gone are the times of solicitors in suits and ties and dark rooms and outdated practices. We are proud to offer a fresh and dynamic approach to the stuffy old world of wills, changing the way we talk about what happens when we die. But that's enough talk about death on a podcast introduction. It's time to pass you over to Peaking into Success host, Mr. Adam Kahn. Whose success are we peeking into this episode, Adam?
Thanks, Sam. Today we have on a guy who is a sports enthusiast with the Misfits boxing as well as normal boxing and MMA, and follows it all around the world, as well as being an editor for YouTubers, most notably Logan Paul, as well as editing a Super Bowl commercial for Prime. We have Gio Torralba.
Want to know what's happening within Derby's black community? Or perhaps you have a story of your own to share? Then look no further than Majatu, your one-stop source for local African and Caribbean news. With our digital news platform and quarterly print magazine, keep up to date on all of the latest in arts, entertainment, food, sports, and more. Find us online at mojatu.com.
Right, hi Gio, how are you today?
I'm good, bro. Just got back from the gym, and yeah, I'm really tired, but it is what it is. Excited to chat to you.
Sweet. Right, so for people that don't know you, how would you sum yourself up in a nutshell, easily for people to understand who you are?
Okay, so I am an editor. I think that's what most people know me from. I've edited with some of the biggest YouTubers, two of the most significant ones being True Geordie. I did them for 4.5 years, and then for a year I've been working with Logan Paul. But I'm also somebody that's also been involved in the YouTube scene for, I'd say, about 6 years now, doing lots of different things. You know, I've done a bit of on-camera stuff, obviously editing, videography. I've done a lot of that too, and you know, graphic design. So I'm kind of an all-round, in a nutshell, YouTube creative, off-camera creative, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's summed up nicely, and kind of what I've got written in front of me, you kind of hit the nail on the head. So that's nice. I mean,
Perfect.
I've kind of looked into you and kind of tried to find bits and bobs out from you online, and of course, your original plan was to kind of go into like mainstream film.
Yeah.
And filmmaking. So what was kind of the turning point to be focusing on kind of, I call it new generation kind of videos and short-term media of kind of the YouTubes and things like that, compared to, of course, your big on-screen films?
Yeah, so basically it was university. I mean, I went and did a film course at university, and that made me realise that the film industry, in my opinion, and obviously, you know, I have friends that work in the film industry, they love it and they have their own opinion. But for me, it was very old-fashioned, and it meant you've got to choose a niche, choose whatever that creative niche that is, whether it be editing or, like, say, for instance, I wanted to get into cinematography and camera work. For about 5 to 10 years, I may just be like carrying equipment around. And I didn't really like that. I wanted to be involved in the creative process from the grassroots all the way to the final delivery. And I just feel like the film industry at the moment, it's really hard to do that. It's incredibly competitive and obviously very outdated, in my opinion. And we're seeing that with what's going on at the moment, you know, with strikes and things like that. And obviously during COVID, I mean, a lot of people that worked in the film industry lost their jobs. So, yeah, it was kind of a decision that I made whilst I was at uni, because I was already exposed a little bit to the YouTube scene, as I had some friends that were in the YouTube scene. So going back to sort of 2016, I was in college in Blackpool and doing a creative media production course. And around that time, Blackpool Grime Media, which was a channel of young kids basically making grime songs, but it went viral because these kids basically would say the most outrageous things. So there was this young Milky Bar looking kid called Little T who was talking about doing horrible things to little sisters and things like that. So it went viral over the internet. And there was a guy called Will M.E., who I'm sure a lot of your audience will know, big YouTuber, started making videos on these Blackpool Grime Media kids. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is going viral on YouTube, and these kids and they live around the corner from me, you know? So I sort of used it as an opportunity to sort of like get my way in there, working with some of the big YouTubers. Like I met Will through that, Memulus, who's a friend of mine. And then and then I go to uni doing this film course, and a lot of my friends work in the YouTube industry. They're able to be creative all the time, making a lot of money. And I was like, this is kind of what I want to do. And then around my second year of university, I was coming home and I wanted to get a job for the summer. So I applied to do a lifeguard course. I had a friend who was a lifeguard, and I thought, this is great. I can make money over summer because obviously during uni, everyone's broke. So I did that, finished the lifeguard course, and the day after I finished the lifeguard course, I was on my way back to Blackpool on a train. True Geordie tweeted out looking for an editor to help me out on a new series I'm working on. I replied to that tweet just with a documentary that I made whilst I was at uni. Yeah, he was like, I love your work, let's try it out. So we worked on a series called True Life Stories. I worked with True Geordie for 4 years. And then over that time, I managed to gain lots of networks and connections in the YouTube scene. And I realized this is where I want to be. I found a niche where I can be super creative from the start of the project to the end of the project. And millions of people around the world get to see it, And I've been very lucky to have lots of opportunities along the way. Like very recently, I edited a Super Bowl commercial in this very chair, in this very room, which was seen by hundreds of millions of people around the world, thanks to Logan. So, yeah, I guess that's what was the decision.
Nice. And I mean, the thing is with, of course, the editing for the YouTube videos, do you feel that you get to put across your own stamp and your own mark, or is it very much, you follow the brief and that's all you do, or is it creative license from yourself to, your videos, what I've seen, especially the Super Bowl one, they do stand out, and is that your unique kind of touch on it, or is that the brief you're given?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I do appreciate that. I don't know. It's very hard to say that I have my own style. Like for me, I look at a lot of other editors and I can sort of determine their style because it's really easy to look at that from the outside looking in. Yeah. But in terms of like the creative freedom that I get when working with a creator, I get quite a lot. I feel like it's like a partnership. Obviously when I was at college, the course that I did, I can't say enough good things about it. It was the Blackpool Sixth Form Creative Media Production course, one of the best things I ever did, and it was the best training to get me into this sort of field. Because basically what we were given every few months was a brief. So we learn about horror films. So we have 3 weeks where we have we watch horror films. They break down sort of the motifs and the things that are used to create horror films, and then we spend 3 weeks making our own horror film or trailer, whatever that is. And we did that routinely for 2 years. And that's what YouTube's like you get in groups and it's a collaborative process. So when I was at college, I was in a group with my friends making an advert, and now it's I'm in a group with Logan. It's me and Logan as a collaborative team working on things. And what you'll find as well, which is different, very different to sort of mainstream creative processes, is there's not huge teams involved. So for instance, with a Super Bowl advert, usually a big corporate company like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, whoever it is, will spend millions and months working on their sort of Super Bowl advert. They'll have a whole team dedicated to just that. Whereas for ours, it was pretty much just me and Logan, That's the amount of creative freedom that I get. Because if I was an editor for a Super Bowl commercial for Coca-Cola, for instance, they would give me the footage and pretty much a step-by-step thing that I had to follow to make sure that it was whatever the director envisioned. Whereas me and Logan were able to work collectively to create something that was both of ours, And one thing I'll say about Logan is that he is a very, very, very good director. He's got a very good director's mind. So he can pre-vision things, But obviously he's always open to sort of my own creative decisions.
Which is good, and I mean, what it's showing from, of course, your growth is that the biggest in the game, and they kind of, people like your Logan Pauls and your Sidemen and people like that are kind of come into everyday life. So it's not just kids and teenagers that know them. Of course, they're kind of breaking the mold, and people are knowing, of course, Logan Paul for Prime and WWE outside of kind of looking at a YouTube video. So it's kind of showing that people are breaking the norms and realising them more. So you saying you and Logan, two people, made an advert that I say did not look out of place and was to the standard of every other advert of that Super Bowl commercial. Because I mean, I kind of didn't watch the English version of it, so I could get the adverts. Because I mean, that's the thing with Super Bowl halftime and the adverts and the halftime show. Like, you don't get that usually in England to the extent of the American one. So seeing all them adverts and all them like movie trailers and your advert not looking out of place, that just shows how far YouTube's come, as well as now you saying two people's work compared to the big companies putting loads of money into it should show that more people like yourself should be given the opportunity to try and give their influence on the kind of biggest platforms to hopefully, I mean, freshen it up.
Absolutely.
And have you seen at all that, of course, like TV or films are maybe taking more risks with different editors, or do you feel like they're still sticking with that old reliables and staying quite old school with it?
I feel like streaming services are changing the game a little bit now, because obviously back in the day, I don't know how much you know sort of about film history, but basically the scene was monopolized. Like, you had to be involved in a huge studio in order to have any sort of relevance in the film industry. Indie films had their place, but they were very much sort of like shelf. And it was like, here's the indie films, here's the big motion picture blockbuster films like Spielberg, etc., etc. Whereas now, with streaming services, you're seeing people sort of even in the YouTube space, like take Raka Raka, for instance. They just had a film released that was like viral over the internet. So the internet's almost playing a part to allow people to have like films that make a lot of noise without the backing of big studios. And I feel like big studios are taking notice of that and allowing a lot of these sort of like, as you say, taking more risks on, I guess, like people that aren't sort of established and more sort of like YouTube people or even internet, creators as a whole. And I think Netflix and things like that, Disney Plus, streaming services are a way forward for that.
Do you think that, of course, YouTube and kind of streaming services are going to be the new norm, and basically satellite TV, as you'd call it, is going to basically take a backseat and kind of die out?
Well, I don't know about dying out, because I feel like there is a place for obviously satellite TV. I mean, that's how we get our news and things like that. But it already has become the new norm. I mean, there's a lot of films nowadays that aren't even going to cinemas. They're going straight to Netflix. They're going straight to Disney Plus. I mean, that's a sign that like that is what the new norm is. People just want to be able to go on the phones and watch the newest Disney film. They'd rather do that than go to the cinemas, 100%. So, yeah.
So it's interesting because, of course, you're in the industry, to kind of get your take on kind of the media and what the stance is at the moment with kind of where you work, and of course with your advert breaking kind of into commercial TV, as you'd call it, in big sporting events, if you saw any difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, like, we're making noise, and that's what was very important to me, being involved in the Super Bowl commercial. I mean, I knew there was going to be a Super Bowl commercial for Prime. I didn't think that I was going to be doing it. Logan just hit me up one night, literally out of the blue one night. I was working on something else, and he said, basically, here's the idea, we want you to edit the Super Bowl commercial. And then we had like, I think 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks to do it. We didn't have a lot of time, but we just got our heads together and decided to just bang out ideas. We'd go back and forth. And then we had to work with, it was interesting because obviously we had to work with the Fox or whoever it was, the company that sort of like put it live on the thing. And there was all these specifications and all these technical words that if you spent years in advertising, working for like high profile clients, you'd know, but like we had to learn it all as we were going, so it's crazy.
Of course, we've not really touched on kind of your other passion away from editing, with the combat sport. So how did you kind of get into that kind of area of the sport and loving that?
Okay, so I was always a casual boxing fan. I can remember being younger, sort of watching sort of like Ricky Hatton fights and things like that. And it was the thing that really turned me onto that was in 2016, I believe it was, or 2017, when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
I feel like that was when I really, really, really got into combat sports. And then, because I wasn't really a big fan of the UFC, I knew of Conor McGregor, I'd seen his fights, didn't really know much about the UFC, wasn't really that interested in MMA as a whole. I started working with True Geordie. The first thing I added for True Geordie is True Life Stories, Conor McGregor. It's got like 5, almost 6 million views now. It's like one of the biggest Conor McGregor quote-unquote documentaries on YouTube. And through that, I had to do obviously a lot of research into UFC MMA, and it was made in the lead up to UFC 229, which was one of the biggest UFC pay-per-views of all time. It may actually still be the biggest pay-per-view of all time, Conor McGregor versus Khabib. I remember just sitting there watching the full card and then just falling in love with the sport. And then I was at university and I'd spend time at night, like on Saturday nights, nothing to do, just watching the UFC cards. And then over time, you just get really hooked to it. And then obviously the YouTube boxing thing came around, and it's basically like, it's my passion, like combat sports is passion, but it's all blended into one now because it's sort of like, it's kind of work too, you know?
So of course, because your two loves and kind of, as you just mentioned, kind of come together with influencer boxing, kind of, do you see that as a positive for the sport or a negative? Is of course people kind of sit on the fence.
For boxing, I think it's fantastic for boxing. I think influencer boxing is exposing really what is causing boxing to sort of like over the years lose a lot of interest, you know? Yes. I mean, it's showing that like you've got to be engaging, you've got to be active on social media, you've got to be a personality, because unfortunately you can be the best boxer in the world, but that's not going to be selling pay-per-views, and it's a show business. Boxing is a show business. Yeah. The MMA are doing it perfectly. You look at the UFC, these guys aren't like the most active on social media, but the way that they're able to create the storylines and create characters out of these people that are still the best in the sport, like Volkanovski, like Israel Adesanya, like Masvidal, like Conor McGregor, it's basically showing boxing, you can do this, you know? And it's also bringing a lot of young eyes to boxing. And that's why it's good that like people like DAZN and these other companies are getting involved, because they're smart and they realize that these young kids are going to grow up and they're going to get involved in watching boxing through watching KSI, through watching Misfits. And then in a few years' time, they'll probably be fans of these up-and-coming boxers, you know? So it's very good for the sport. I don't see how it's bad for the sport at all.
I completely agree. I mean, I remember watching the KSI Joe Weller one, and I mean, we can agree that the undercards were they weren't entertaining, but I feel like since that kind of first one and kind of how it's evolved with kind of Misfits and all of that, I feel like it shines a proper light on it. And I mean, some of the people kind of fighting social media wise, like the one that I think of all the time is Anderson Gibb. Just in my eyes, when I watch him, he doesn't look out of place. And there's a lot of social media influencers or YouTubers that don't look out of place in the kind of boxing world, which I mean, I totally love. And I mean, with your links to Logan, I assume that you're going to be going to the Misfits event next month and supporting there. So are you excited for that, and kind of what are your predictions kind of for them fights? Because I only watched the face-to-face last night, the Dylan Dennis Logan Paul one, so I kind of hadn't had time. I watched that, and I mean, I think both of them are kind of shining a massive light on how to sell an event. And
I feel like Dylan, you're right. I think that's because Dylan versus Logan has become almost the unofficial main event, although people are very excited about KSI Tommy, and I feel like near the event there's going to be a lot of mainstream attention on that fight, similar to how there was for Jake Paul versus Tommy. My prediction, am I excited? I am excited. I'm also very nervous. I do believe Logan will beat Dylan, and I do believe he'll stop him. But at the same time, I really want Logan to just put on a show and get a knockout similar to how his brother got against Tyron Woodley, where it was like flatline, meme worthy. And I feel like that's fair enough because of all the stuff that that Dylan said, and done, and what he's been, the idea of relentlessly targeting somebody who's not really even involved, in my opinion, is just too far. Like, you can't really like do that. And it's a shame because obviously, like Nina, I had the pleasure of meeting Nina when Logan fought Money in the Bank a few months ago at the WWE, and she's lovely. You know, she's just like, as you see on the videos and stuff, like she's just really nice, bubbly, very happy, just like innocent person, you know. And Dylan is just making her out to be someone that she's absolutely not. And it's unfair that she's been relentlessly harassed. But that's obviously being dealt with in the way that Nina wants to deal with it. But I just hope for Logan's sake that he has the opportunity to really put it on Dylan and just get a brutal knockout.
100%. And I mean, what I've noticed a lot is, of course, the KSI Logan fight, when of course we were doing diss tracks, and of course KSI came out on the press conference with like a blonde wig on and stuff like that. That was targeted, but it was targeted at Logan, where I think Dylan Dennis, as you said, taking the different approach, I feel like is going to not get in Logan's head negatively because he's not putting himself down, because it's not aimed at him directly. I think it's going to fuel him to basically want to knock this guy out. And I mean, I hope he does this. I think it will shine.
I hope so.
It'll shine a massive light on Logan, and of course with his whole boxing arc is very much like he's not really seen success from it. So I think it'll be a nice way to, of course, celebrate it. And of course it's being plugged as the prime card, so hopefully like getting that success. And I feel like Misfits, that event is going to be kind of the roundup for a lot of the big hitters in boxing. Is that I can't see really Logan or JJ kind of fighting again after this. I feel like this is like the swan song. So
really interesting.
That's how I see it anyway.
Well, here's the thing, bro. Misfits have signed a 5-year deal with the Zone, and here's the thing: like, I don't know how they carry on for 5 years. The only thing they can really do is just like tease that KSI Jake Paul narrative and let it breathe a little longer. And obviously they're desperate to build stars at the moment, and that's the real problem with Misfits at the moment. They put on these sort of smaller events, and it's really hard to draw engagement, because a lot of very smart people in the scene say that there isn't really a future for YouTube boxing without KSI, without Logan Paul, without Jake Paul. Like, those three people are very, very important. Take all them three away and you just got Salt Pappy. Like, you're not going to be able to sell out venues with Salt Pappy and things like that.
Very true. Very true.
So it's it could be the swan song. It could be the sort of last final big event. But here's the thing: if JJ beats Tommy, I don't think that JJ will fight Jake, because there's no need to take that risk.
True. But do you think JJ will beat Tommy?
Good question. On paper, and I will answer this, I'm not just going to skirt around the bush, but on paper, everything points to Tommy. I mean, Tommy, obviously, the more experienced boxer, he's got, he looks fantastic against Jake Paul. We've never seen JJ look as good as Tommy has looked in his last two fights, for instance. However, JJ has an unbelievable power, you know? Yeah. He has the ability to really, 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 like, make people, like, forget where they are in that moment, kind of thing. And I do believe Tommy is hittable. And I also do believe that JJ hits harder than Jake. And I feel like the unorthodox style of JJ is going to be very difficult to deal with Tommy. Tommy isn't just going to be able to sit behind a jab and have a boxing match. He's going in there to have a slugfest. And I feel like JJ, when it becomes a slugfest, similar to how it was with Logan in the second fight, he may land some big shots. I actually feel like Tommy versus JJ is going to be very similar to KSI Logan too.
Nice.
But it all depends on if Tommy can hurt JJ and force JJ to be defensive, then he'll clearly win. There's no chance of like JJ outboxing Tommy, in my opinion. But if JJ can be successful in making it a slobber knocker and making it a slugfest, in my opinion, he has the advantage because he hits harder, and he can knock him out.
That's interesting. I like that.
But I do think Tommy's going to win. I do think Tommy's going to win. That's the answer.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
I'm supporting JJ. I'm supporting JJ.
That's the thing. I mean, I'd rather JJ win. I think
absolutely
it's boring seeing Tommy just be like, yeah, beating Jake Paul, now beating JJ. I just feel like it's not entertaining. Whereas I feel like it's a bit of an underdog story, and it'll kind of, I don't know, propel him to new heights, wouldn't it, in the scene? So I'd really like to see it happen, but we don't know. We'll have to wait until October for that one.
I know it's going to be very exciting that whole night. I mean, the whole card's stacked. There's a lot of people on there that I'm really excited to see. Dean Waleed, it's going to be good.
Coming back to you now and your career, what do you see as your career high or your biggest achievement so far?
Oh, Christ. This is going to be an interesting one because technically it was a Super Bowl commercial, but not aired at the Super Bowl. So obviously, I'm a huge UFC fan.
Yeah.
We aired that commercial around the world in stadiums when the big pay-per-views are on. So I've been to multiple UFC events and seen my commercial played in the stadium.
Oh man!
That for me is my number one career sort of peak.
No, I mean that's a good one. Going to events and like
before the main event.
Yeah.
Literally before the ring walk start for the main event. Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, British title on the line, London, O2 Arena. Seeing that advert play, I went to Vancouver in Canada. I saw it played before Amanda Nunes Aldana. It's just it gives me goosebumps.
No, I like that. That's a good achievement to have. I like that. Is there anything that you've got kind of in the pipeline that's coming up, or any kind of future goals that you've got that you want to kind of achieve by this time next year?
Absolutely not. For me, I don't really like to live life by goals because if I was to set a goal for myself. Wait, is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Hello?
You seem to have frozen if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Your thing is frozen and it's sort of the audio's going a bit weird.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I'll carry on. So, I try not to live life by goals because if I was to set a goal a year ago or 2 years ago, what I'd be doing now, it would seem too far-fetched and it would almost be impossible. So I like to live life by trajectories, meaning that you sort of enjoy each week, each day as it comes, and try and have as much fun doing whatever you're doing, because then, you're not sort of slaving away for however long trying to reach this goal, get to that point and go, okay, I've got it now, what's next, And some people, it affects them, So I don't really have any goals. I'm very lucky and very fortunate to be in the position that I'm in and be able to work with the people that I work with. And, I've been working in the YouTube scene for 6 years, but I've been editing and I've been, a fan of YouTube and creating for way over 10, 12 years. So I just feel like I'm just carrying on this trajectory. When I was a kid and I was making YouTube videos when I was in school and editing and spending all night rendering, there was never a goal in mind to eventually work in YouTube. I just followed trajectories and sort of crafting my skill, enjoying what I'm doing, being surrounded by cool people and stuff. And I'm just carrying on doing that, And we'll see what happens this time next year because, every year that's gone by so far, I've always looked back and gone, I would never have predicted that I would have ended up here this time last year. So hopefully that's the same as it carries on. But nice. I have no goals at all.
No, I like that. Is there one piece of advice that you'd give to your younger self? So looking back on what you've achieved.
See, this is an interesting question because it would suggest that I would try and give them advice to change something. So it's a tricky one because I wouldn't really change anything. Learn After Effects sooner. Learn After Effects sooner is what I'd probably say, because I feel like I'm a really, really new After Effects now. I'd give myself 2 pieces of advice. 1, invest in Bitcoin in like 2016, and 2, After Effects. Just do it way sooner, because you'll save yourself a lot of time.
No, fair enough. And I mean, that should say to people, of course, if they want to pursue anything, a lot of young people want to pursue YouTube and content creation, of course. It's not just sitting in front of a camera or in front of a screen and recording. It's all kind of behind the scenes stuff that you have to learn over time. So if anyone's wanting to do it, they need to know that they need to do the editing and everything as well.
Of course, but the facilities that are accessible now to young creators are far better than what I had when I was younger. So I was editing it on like a rusty old laptop on Sony Vegas Pro using free trials. I would then export videos overnight. So I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to check an export of a video that's going to go out to like 20 people. But I'd get stressed out because I'd wake up and it would have failed at 50%. Then I'd have to do it again. And like those hours of like stress that I had as a kid going through that, to be able to now finish like a half an hour 4K video and export it in less than 10 minutes is crazy to me. And like now, obviously, all these people have these facilities. They're able to make videos on TikTok, on the phones and things like that. So that's the new generation, really. You know?
That's fair enough. I've got some quick fire questions for you now.
Cool.
So hopefully they should be easy. Some are kind of related to like combat sports. Some are just generalised. So it's just to see your opinion on certain things. So to start off, I've got, who is your like combat sport hero, or the word GOAT's thrown around a lot nowadays? Like who is that for you in the combat sport world?
Oh, it's interesting because like, you know, you said GOAT, but like, are you asking me who my favourite combat sports fighter is?
Who is it?
Is that what you're asking?
Oh yeah,
GOAT
yeah.
and favourite is very different.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, so the GOAT to you.
Oh, Michael Chandler. I love Michael Chandler. I just feel like he's a stand-up guy. You know, he's a very passionate guy. He's such an exciting fighter whenever he fights. And, yeah, I feel like for me, like, he's just always been, since I first saw him fight, like my favourite, without a doubt.
Is there anything specifically that makes him stand out to you? He wouldn't be my first choice if I was going UFC about this.
Because, here's the thing, a lot of UFC fighters have their flaws, and in my opinion, like, he is, like, the perfect UFC fighter, and that what I'm saying is, like, obviously he doesn't win every fight. I think, like, you know, he loses his fights quite often. However, like, he is the type of person to not let losses affect him, and he still puts on exciting fights, and even though he has, like, had a few losses, no one ever thinks about that when he fights. When he steps in the ring, he could be fucking, like, 20-0, because he puts on the fight of his life every single time. And obviously, like, he has the excitement in the ring. I don't know if you remember when he beat Tony Ferguson, he gets in the mic and he calls out Conor McGregor. Yes. In my opinion, that was one of the best call-outs of all time. It was just pure passion. And then he jumps on the ring after he knocks out Tony Ferguson. He's like, "Where's my son? Where's my son?" And he's like, finds his son, and he just breaks down. And he's just so primal, and it's like, you can just connect to him, because I think everyone's got somebody in their life that they love in the way that he loves his, obviously, adopted son, but it's just, he's just so relatable, and he's just so exciting, and I feel like, for me, he's the full package. He's just a full package. Like, when Michael Chandler's fighting on a UFC card, no matter what you're doing, you're stopping and you're watching that fight.
No, I like that. I mean, he's not my first choice, so it was nice to kind of see your explanation of why I chose him, and you kind of made me think more about him because, of course, how you've explained him, and when I've watched him fight, yeah, it makes more sense why. Yeah, he is up there.
He's incredible.
So you swayed my opinion to knock him up a few pegs in my mind, anyway. So no, I like that.
That's good.
What's the best sporting event that you've seen live, so physically been at?
Oh, you know what? The first UFC event I ever attended live was UFC Fight Night Volkov versus Aspinall, and it was at the O2 Arena, so literally just across the road from my house. It was the first one in Europe after COVID, so everyone was so excited to be there. and the card was stacked, and it was literally like, I'm pretty much sure like almost all finishes. Some of the best finishes of the year, like the UFC like knockouts of the year, happened that night. I remember Topuria knocking out Black Country Banger. Obviously, that infamous elbow from Molly McCann over Luana Carolina. Paddy Pimblett getting the choke on, was it Vargas? Oh, yeah, Vargas. And then obviously Tom Aspinall putting on a clinic against Volkov, who looked so amazing against Tai Tuivasa the other day. So, like, everyone was just so like excited, and the atmosphere was radiant. And I was with my dad, I was with my girlfriend, and it was like the first time seeing a UFC event live too. So I was like, this is just like the perfect atmosphere.
Nice. Is there a dream sporting event that you'd want to go to, or
I'd love to go to
location?
Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, but I don't know if I'll be able to go to that one.
Where is it?
It'll probably be in Vegas, and I think it might be at the end of this year. I don't know if I'm going to get to Vegas in December, but that'd be good.
Fair enough. Is there, of course, I know that you've got a YouTube channel as well, so if you could have a dream collaboration on that channel, who would you want on?
I don't care on the YouTube channel. Like, the YouTube channel is just there so I can stream sometimes.
Okay.
All my platforms, I have a TikTok, I have a Twitter, I have a YouTube. For me, it's like secondary stuff. Like, it doesn't really provide that much money. It's not really what my passion is. So it's a difficult question, that. Because I've had some TikToks that I've really banged, but then I kind of just don't really care too much about it. I'm like, yeah, it's not my main thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And YouTube, yeah.
What about if I change it to dream collaboration? So, say for example, like you and Logan collaborating on the Super Bowl advert.
I know what you mean. I don't know if you know who Hayden is. So Hayden Hillier-Smith is Logan's previous editor. He is, in my opinion, and I'll always say this, the number one YouTube editor in the game. Like, I'll never consider myself to be the best because Hayden exists. Like, Hayden, he lives and breathes it, and he's so knowledgeable. And if you know, you're out there and you're wanting to get into editing, go to Hillier Smith's YouTube channel. He does breakdowns of his videos. They're very engaging. He's recently released a masterclass. Like, he is exceptional in the way that he is able to articulate editing and is able to show his passion for editing, which I feel like is very important. And one of the main reasons I took this job, even though obviously I applied for it, but the reason why I decided to do it is because Hayden was the previous person to be in these shoes. And I thought, if anything is going to push me to become a better creator, a better editor, a better all-round, creative, it would be being in the position that he was once in. So I'm very honoured to be in that position, be able to work with Logan, and I'd love to, at some point, to answer your original question, to collaborate with Hayden on something. And I do believe, potentially, he has asked me to do something in Manchester next month because he is coming for the fight. So potentially we could be doing like an interview or something. I'm not too sure what it is, but I'd love to collaborate on an edit.
Nice. I like that. Try kind of swaying away from kind of the job role and everything. Is there a go-to karaoke song that you would perform for everyone?
Oh, Christ. I don't know. A karaoke. Well, listen, if I was ever in a situation where it was like a social situation, there was a karaoke, I would never do it. But if it was like I had to, like if there was money on the line or something, Bohemian Rhapsody, because everyone can join in.
Yeah, no shout. Are you doing all the little high bits as well?
I'll give it a go. I've got a decent falsetto.
No, I like that answer. People can join in, so it saves you singing. No, I like that.
Exactly. You don't want to sing a song that nobody knows, you know. You want something that everybody knows at least a few of the lyrics to.
No, true. My next question is, if you've got a chef with you and he can make you a meal and give you a drink, what are you asking for?
I live with a chef. I've got a brilliant girlfriend who cooks for me pretty much every single night.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going to say the best thing that she makes me is this salt and pepper chicken with rice. I don't know how she makes it, but it's the most gorgeous thing in the world. It's probably my favourite meal. So I'll probably go with that. And drink. Obviously, I'm going to drink Prime.
Nice. Which flavour?
My favourite flavour is lemonade. We actually got it when we went out to New York. I don't think it's in the UK, or at least it's not in the UK yet, but we got some when we were in New York, and in my opinion, it's the best flavour.
Nice. And then my follow-up question to that is, if you could choose one person to come and have this meal with you, who are you choosing?
Oh, God, it has to be my girlfriend. My girlfriend's we've been together for 9 years. She's been there through thick and thin. Even before I started working, I guess, in YouTube, and since school, since college, it would be hard to say anyone else but her.
Nice. No, that's a nice answer. And then just to round up as my final question, if you could take someone to your gem of England, where are you taking them? So if someone comes from abroad and you can only show them one place in England, but it's something that means something to you, where are you taking them?
It'd have to be Blackpool. That's my hometown. I have a good friend, I don't know if you know who he is. He's a YouTuber, Canadian YouTuber, an incredibly controversial YouTuber. If you've got any limits when it comes to comedy, he's not for you, but if you don't, you'll love him. He's called Brody TV. I met him a few years ago because True Geordie was a fan of him, and I just came across him through a recommendation. We got talking, we became friends. I'd say he's probably my best friend now. I travelled to Canada to go visit him. He's visited me on multiple occasions in the UK, and every single time he comes, we always spend time going to Blackpool, so he knows all my family and stuff like that. So it'd have to be Blackpool. I'd love to take Logan to Blackpool one day. That'd be cool.
What would you show him in Blackpool?
I'll take him to the Pleasure Beach. I actually tried to pitch this to Logan. So in the Pleasure Beach in Blackpool, there is a ride called the Pepsi Max Big One.
Oh, I know. It used to be the Big Dipper, right?
Exactly. No, I don't know. I think that's a different one. The big one is the biggest one in Blackpool, sponsored by Pepsi Max. And I pitched it to him. I said, make this the prime big one. And he said, maybe in the future. So
there you go.
That'd be cool.
No, nice. Just to kind of wrap up, so of course people have listened to this and maybe want to find more about you or kind of find out how to keep up with you. Where are they going to be able to find you easily?
So I'm most active on Twitter. My Twitter or X or whatever it's called now is Gio Torra. That's GIOTORRA. And then if you want to find me on Instagram, it's Gio Torralba. So it's GIOTORRALBA. So it's like Tor and then like Jessica Alba, Torralba.
No, I like how you've actually spelled it out, so it makes it easier for everyone. No, I rate that.
Yep.
But thank you for coming on, and it's been great talking to you today.
No worries, bro. You're a very good interviewer, and this has been a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you very much. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Peaking to Success podcast. If you enjoyed, please make sure you follow us on Spotify as well as Instagram, where you can see all the updates of who is coming up, as well as who has already been on the podcast, as well as Twitter, where there is information and interaction from me on there as well.
You can listen wherever you download your podcasts.